my channel, Moon Catching with Erica. I am Erica, your fertility nutritionist, here to show you all the ways to support your natural fertility. So I took the Dutch test and I wanted to share the results with you. They give you a 16-page report, so I did my best to kind of condense it as much as possible. There's so many things I could talk about, but I just wanted to highlight some of the key points. So here those are now. So this is my Dutch cycle mapping results. These are my results. The first part of the test shows two different estrogens, but this test tests the two of the main ones, estradiol and estrone. Now, the way that my body metabolizes choosing between estradiol and estrone is about even. So we don't need to talk about all four. The second two are progesterone. The ones in purple are progesterone. Same thing. The way we'll really just talk about alpha, and we'll talk alpha progesterone and then estradiol. So I submitted 21 samples, and they took, the best of the best, essentially, and they used 9 of the 21 I submitted to create these data points. So there's 9 dots on all 4 of these graphs. Starting with the first one with estradiol, the surge or the rise in estradiol in all of our cycles is what tells the body, specifically the brain, that your follicle, your egg, is maturing, it's reaching its peak maturity, so it's time to ovulate the egg inside. So this high peak of estrogen sends a signal to the brain to release LH, luteinizing hormone, and this is what we're testing when we do our ovulation predictor kits, our LH P strips, all these P sticks. The LH from the brain sends a signal to the ovaries to ovulate, to release the egg. So it's important that we understand kind of the preceding steps, right? Because when we're always peeing on the stick, all we're focusing on is LH, we're focused on ovulation. But we really need to understand the preceding steps, right? This is also things that could be going wrong, right? When things aren't going well in our cycle, when we're not ovulating, when we're not ovulating well, which we'll get to in a second. So my surge of estrogen occurred on cycle day 11. So that's the bar graph up there, or the scatter plot. And here are the numbers down here. Estradiol was at its highest peak, 5.83 on cycle day 11. So my LH surge should be happening in a day or two, which means ovulation should be happening in another day or two after that. One great thing about having this test is that I can kind of confirm that when I am charting my cycle, it's actually, reflective of what's happening with my hormones, which is why I love that it's like a bloodless fertility test. You can test your hormones indirectly by charting your cycle. So if I look at my phone I use the Kandara app on the phone. This is what I recommend to all my clients also. I love this. If I look here on cycle day 11, when I had my estrogen surge, my temps are still in the lower range, right? It hasn't done the bump yet when I'm tracking my BBT. So cycle day 11 is when I had the surge of estrogen. So within a day or so of that, I should have had my surge of LH. So that will bring me to cycle day 12. Cycle day 12, even if my LH surge was there, then that means within 12 to 24 hours out of that, I would ovulate, and progesterone would be the thing that's causing my temps to increase post-ovulation. So if I were to look at cycle day 13, which I actually missed and didn't take my temp that day, but by cycle day 14, I did have my temp shift. So that's within the range of the 3 days. So 1 day for the LH surge, and then another day or two perhaps for the temp shift. Once your body recognizes that you have ovulated, there is progesterone around. Progesterone is affecting your thyroid. Your thyroid controls your temperature. Your body temperature raises above, the old range. It's not like a full degree quite yet. So another thing that corresponds with my cycle chart to what's happening with my actual hormones is what's going on with my progesterone. My progesterone is not very strong. I mean, my estrogen is not very strong either, right? But certainly my progesterone is not very strong. This is the high and the low, the gray lines. Sorry, I think I forgot to say that. The gray lines are the highs and the lows. If this is high, your girl is low, right? I mean, I'm not mirrored directly on top of the low line, but you know, I'm a degree or two above, right? So my progesterone levels are pretty low. They're not very high. And this is reflected in what's going on in my BBT. Because when I ovulate, my temperature does increase, yes, but it's low. It's taking a very long time to get its way up to the peak. And so it says, based on the Dutch test, when I did my urine test, by cycle day 28, they have it highlighted here. This is my highest day of progesterone, beta progesterone. And that correlates to my temp chart because on cycle day 21 is my highest temp. So they're around the same. But it should not have taken so long for my temp to reach its highest, or reach its highest and stay high, either longer or reach higher sooner, instead of this slow progression. You know, it's kind of like, you know, the little engine that could, like, it's getting there. Okay, so putting this all together, what does this mean? You know, not specific to me, but what does it mean about anyone's cycle? What does it mean that what is going on, right? Basically, this is mostly a reflection of poor follicle health, poor follicular phase, meaning that I need more support in the first half of my cycle, which may seem interesting because we're saying I have low progesterone. So shouldn't I need support to fix this low estrogen and this low progesterone? Yes and no, but most importantly, estrogen and progesterone the levels are established based on the health of the follicle, which the follicle is being developed in the follicular cycle, in the follicular phase of your cycle. So if my estrogen in the follicle isn't developing a lot, isn't getting to be a very high threshold, then the egg inside most likely isn't maturing that well either. And basically the egg and the follicle are like, look, this is the best that we can do. Let's just go ahead and ovulate. The other thing that's happening here is that it's, you know, we're not all going to have the textbook 14 days ovulation day and 28-day cycle length. We're not all going to have that, true. But to get my high peak, estrogen a little closer to, you know, maybe like day 11, 12, and then have LH take a day, have me ovulate by a day, you know, to lengthen my cycle, that would be ideal too, to give the egg more time to develop, right? If it's kind of tapping out early-ish, right? If it's tapping out a little early and saying, look, this is all we got, then it's perhaps not as well and developed or mature as it could be. The second thing is that if this is all saying your hormones are coming from your follicle, that is why progesterone is low. So I just wanted to show this in a different way. So I know there's a lot going on, but just, you know, look at what I'm trying to show you. Here, I'll even use a little highlighter for you. So in the first half of your cycle, your estradiol surges, right? We talked about that. And when that surges in the first half of your cycle, in the follicular phase before ovulation, when that surges, it also causes your luteinizing hormone to surge also. I don't like that this is exactly on the ovulation line. It should be before, right? Because it's triggering ovulation within 12 hours, 24 hours, sometimes 36 hours, sometimes 48, or I said that wrong, a day or two, right? So it could be before this. So I don't like that it's exactly on the line, but for sake of argument, it's fine. And again, they're showing the, you know, for 14-day perfect cycle, right? 28-day ovulation, 14 perfect cycle length, 28 days, right? But that's not everyone's story. And it's totally normal and healthy to have shorter or longer cycles, right? Just not too short and not too long. Okay, so what I really want to talk about on this slide was to show that your growing follicle, right, has the egg inside, and estradiol is increasing because the cells of the growing follicle are maturing and they are developing the estrogen. And as the follicle has more and more cells, more and more healthy cells, more and more estrogen is produced, and estrogen is getting higher and higher and higher. Pretty soon it reaches the tipping point. It's like, okay, this is as mature and healthy as we're going to get. It's time to ovulate. So it signals the brain to release LH, and then LH triggers ovulation. But the follicle isn't done. Just because it is done producing and maturing the egg inside, it is not done. It switches to this thing called the corpus luteum. It is a new structure of the old follicle. It just changes to this new structure. The corpus luteum is what makes progesterone predominantly. Like the other, your adrenal gland can make a teeny tiny little bit, but it is the corpus luteum that makes 99.99% of your progesterone, right? So the progesterone levels are still a reflection of the corpus luteum, i.e. the follicle health. So for me to have low progesterone levels in my luteal phase, luteal, however you want to say it, in the second half of my cycle, we talk about luteal phase defect. If your cycle isn't, this length is less than 10 days, less than 12 days, those would be kind of the longer lengths. Like 12 is ideal, 10 is like right on the border, right? 12 or longer is ideal. So I just wanted to show this in another kind of visual form. And I guess I could talk about FSH while I'm here too. So this is what's happening when some women have really high FSH. Their body, FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, is what's telling the telling the follicles that it's time to, wake up out of the dormant state. It's time to develop. It's time to get ready so that we can pick one of you to be the dominant egg to ovulate. So it recruits, it recruits more than one, but it's like 1,000 eggs actually are stimulated each month. But it recruits more than one, and you are basically trying to, pick the best of the best. Your body is trying to pick the best of the best, right? The dominant follicle. But when women have, I'm way off subject here, but when women have high FSH, you would think better is good, or more is better, but not necessarily. That means that your body is struggling to get the follicles to respond. So it's sending out more and more and more and more. If this green line was, starting to do kind of like one of these numbers, right? It's sending out more and more and more FSH to trigger follicle development. All I really wanted to say on here, just give you a visual of this. And as always, if you have any questions or need clarification, please drop a little question or comment in the comment section, and let me know if you need something explained in more detail. So I'm trying to sum it up without sharing everything. So yeah, that's pretty much it on this. Like I said, my progesterone, so as I have been experiencing repeat early miscarriage, first trimester miscarriage, progesterone is a most likely culprit. Of course, egg health is still always a question, right? Because my follicle isn't developing well, which is why my progesterone is low, which is perhaps preventing the egg from being able to stick, right? If the uterine lining is being supported by the progesterone. So estrogen and estradiol, I should have said on the other side when I had the visual up, it thickens the lining, and then progesterone maintains it, and it makes all the necessary shifts and changes that happen during the implantation window. So if I have lots of things going on with my uterine lining, with my hormones, all of them kind of maybe stemming from the first phase of my cycle, the follicular phase, when things are just, you have to start good to finish good. I think would be a good analogy. So, I do have this good, healthy second bump in estrogen, which is also made by the follicle. So this is kind of good. My follicle is able to produce enough estrogen in the second half, but just not enough in the first half, and never does it make enough progesterone ever. One way that I can monitor this as I'm making changes is, again, I'm not going to take the Dutch test every day, right? But I can keep tracking my cycle, keep tracking my temps specifically to see if my sudden increase in body temperature goes up right at ovulation and not takes this, it's like a roller coaster ride. Like it gets up there eventually, right? But I need to kind of shoot up there, my temp, that is, and to reflect a really high, nice surge a nice little bump of progesterone. So we will talk about what's going on and why this may be happening on the next part of the cycle, the Dutch test. So those are my results. I could have gone over so many more details. I tried to edit as much as I could so that the video wasn't super long, but I hope you got a gist of the amazing wealth of information that you can gather from the test results. And so if you want to know more about what I did to make changes based on my Dutch results, stick around for part 3, where I go over my lifestyle changes, nutrition changes, and even the supplements that I'm adding based on my test results. If you have any questions about anything I shared today, or you want to know more about the test itself, or you're looking for someone to be a provider, you can contact me to be a provider, or you can go to the Dutch website and find a provider there. Be sure to hit the notification button if you don't want to miss part 3, where I go over the changes that I've made based on my Dutch results. So I'll see you next time.